Hey, Theater Philadelphia fam. This is Sabriaya Shipley, the Executive Director of Theater Philadelphia, and we are back for another year of our Philly Theater Week podcast. This year marks 8 years of Philly Theater Week, which hosts pay what you can tickets to advocate for accessible theater with over 40 different productions taking place over the greater Philadelphia area. This year, Philadelphia Theater Week runs from April 3rd to the 13th. And we are excited to have the chance to talk more about some of these productions that are happening. They're offering really great opportunities for the community to come out, see some theater, and keep seeing some theater, if you get my drift. I'm here today with two members of Miniball, which is a branch of Cannonball, Sue and Skye. We're going to talk about them as artists, as well as about Miniball, the extension of Cannonball, and how that all contributes to the wonderful Philadelphia theater scene that we're proud to be a part of. So, Sue and Skye, I'm going to have you introduce yourselves, and then we're going to jump in with some questions about Miniball and also about just Philly theater in general. So, yeah, Sue, who are you?
Who am I? I'm Sue from Istanbul, Turkey. Been living in America for the past 3.5 years. Only in Philly. Once
Period.
Philly, always Philly.
Period.
It feels like. But yeah, I came to America for my master's in dance at UArts. Graduated, was working there until it shut down. And now I think it's been 3 years since I've been working for Cannonball Festival as a producer. And also working for Miniball as a producer for the past 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
I'm Skye. Skye Fort. I am a theater maker. I'm a director. I also do video, performance art. I perform sometimes. I also work in production and stage management and wear every single hat,
Yep.
as you do.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in Philly for coming up on 3 years now, and have sort of lived all over before that. I was in Chicago for 8 years working in theater. I'm from New Mexico originally. And like Sue, this is my 3rd year as a producer with Cannonball and 2nd year as a producer with Miniball.
Period. I'm excited to learn more about Miniball because first of all, I was like, there's a Miniball? Period. Listen, the past 2 years I've been young. I've been trying to run the company. But but I was like, Miniball? Stop playing with me. What? I know about Cannonball, which is a wonderful festival that usually takes place towards the end of summer, right around kind of Fringe festival time. And I'm sure our audience will know about Cannonball as well. But we would love to hear more about what this branch, this Miniball. Where did Miniball come out of Cannonball? What was that kind of birth like?
I think it was more around the idea of not just being like an annual specific festival. We just want to be present also with our partnership with Fringe in that way, and just trying to offer more space for artists, not just during the festival, because during the festival it's a chaos. For the past 2 years that me and Skye have been working there, it's been 120 shows. Each show can have 3 to 4 performances. So that all packed in rush, Fringe vibe of Cannonball. We are trying to, how do I say that, offer something different to a selection of artists at Miniball Festival, where they have more space. It's a different venue that they can have access to. And yeah, I guess just a reminder of come to Cannonball as well.
I recommend. Yeah.
that's the mini ball.
Yeah, and so Cannonball is a hub of the Fringe Festival, and so it happens in the month of September. All of our artists are also part of the Fringe Festival, but we're sort of stationed around specific venues, and we offer them production and marketing support for their shows, which are part of the Fringe Festival. And so, Miniball is a tiny version of that. That's 5 days, but many shows.
Many shows.
So many shows.
We still pack it in.
Yeah.
Which to the Philly theater community, they're probably we just be merging and intersecting in all these different ways, because it's like, oh, Philly Theater Week has 46 productions, but then I'm like, there's some festivals within these productions. Yeah. So you gotta times it a little bit. What made y'all be like, hey, let's be a part of Philly Theater Week this year? Let's come into the play.
A little advice, I would say, that we got from someone. And I was like, sure, like, let's follow up on that advice. But that's a like very personal thing that I'm like thinking about these days around like how these merges can happen, because sometimes you don't know around the application that you're applying to, like the eligibility kind of thing. And I was like, let's just give this a shot. If not, we'll just not get accepted. Like,
yeah, we accept a lot of people.
I know, but.
Yeah, and it really, I mean, we were really lucky that it timed out with the week that we're doing Miniball. Last year, Miniball was several weeks earlier in March. And so, we're really lucky that they worked out timing-wise together, too.
Yeah, and we're lucky to have y'all a part of it. I think what's things about Philly Theater Week is, since we made it a pay what you can kind of service and like availability, it's really kind of an option for, just to Theater Philadelphia to step in and uplift what's happening and and kind of paint a map. Through our Theater Week guide, we like paint where all these shows are happening, what's the locations, those kind of things. Just to say, theater is out there. It's in these different spaces.
No, and it's also like I really feel the impact of the closure of UArts, like in the art scene of the city, and I think it's a very big responsibility on all of our shoulders as like theater, like performance makers, like festival organizers, producers, to be able to offer different spaces to these artists and be like, it is still happening. Like it's here, it's alive, and we just have to keep supporting each other, really.
That part. And what we loved about the Philly Theater Week, you talk about the application process, we're always like, people are like, can I apply? Am I eligible? And we're like, it's a free application. Literally, if you have a location and you got some tickets you want to give away for pay what you can, come on over, right? And if you're in the greater Philadelphia area, because, we get that all the time. What's the radius? If you are in the great, listen.
That's my dating app. Radius, like miles. I'm like, can I include New York in that?
I'm like, don't listen. But we have shows are in New Jersey, really. You know what I'm saying? But they are still a part of that greater Philadelphia area. But don't get the same kind of like availability or to but it's for me, it's also about seeing the vast variety of talent that is happening, right? I love that Philly has so many different theater festivals and art making festivals, because it gives people opportunity. Like, even if you miss Theater Week, right, you still in the summertime, you hitting up Fringe Festival, you hitting up the Cannonball, you hitting up all these different festivals at different ways to like sink in to theater. And don't get started on, the ways in which art, Cannonball, Theater Week, as well as Fringe, gives an opportunity to individual artists who are looking to, produce their work, right? Or collectives that, otherwise don't have bigger budgets to kind of rent out spaces and to find, PR and social media support.
Yeah, I really support like Cannonball's distinction there, where it really tries to offer like funding opportunities to artists as well. Like, we have special presentation tracks that artists can apply to, and like if they're selected, basically they get like funding, like a specific amount of funding to be able to like self-produce, because we also have to support that how do I say that, like instinct and desire for people to self-produce.
It's so hard out there for independent artists, and I think just providing as many opportunities as possible. And I think that Philadelphia has a really incredible independent artist scene. I haven't been here that long, and sort of compared to working professionally in theater in Chicago, the way that independent artists here really just make things happen and aren't sitting around waiting for opportunities or waiting for things to happen for them. They're out there making them happen, and I think that's really impressive. And so stuff like Philly Theater Week and the Fringe Festival and Cannonball, the way we're able to do our little part to provide opportunities for those artists, I feel is so cool. And it's so cool to see what people are working on and to have so many opportunities to see what people
That's
are
what I was
working
gonna say
on.
too, because it's great. Like if you have, even when you have like that many festivals that someone can apply to, you can also like track their process. Like it doesn't have to be already work that I'm just seeing. I want people to be able to have the practice to meet with their audience every part of their way in their performance making. Like.
Yeah. And how you document the people, you know what I'm saying? Like to be able to document your progress, your work, right? But to also have organizations be part of our like job is to be like, hey, no, we got your back. We're going to make sure that we keep tabs and we push this method out. Philly Theater Week started as more of a PR thing where it was like, we're going to, make sure that you in the press releases, we're sending you and getting as much press as we can towards this set of shows happening, right? And the pay what you can is like, no, let's also advertise so that we are engaging new audiences to come into these spaces, right? And also for y'all for new like theater companies and individual artists to like have their own records of like people who are interested in their specific work, right? Who want to kind of go past the pay what you can or whether to invest in them as artists or them as a collective. It was really exciting. I think it's really exciting to be able to see how Philly documents, our growth over the years, not to say we don't have our own issues as a theater scene, but we for the most part, I think it's great that we do have those individual spotlights on artists and collectives. Because what it does is it says, we know that the ecosystem has its things that it's testing out, but we can have some sort of control in how we pushed out that ecosystem. Yeah.
I get that.
Definitely. And I get that. Like, to me, it's so exciting, Philly Theater Week happening in the spring because, like, I've always felt like Fringe season here is when everyone is making work and when everyone is seeing work, and outside of September people are like, I don't know, nothing's happening. And so to really like highlight the theater that is happening year round in Philadelphia and to bring audiences to that and to give people a place to say what is happening, you know, and to have lots of options.
It's
what is happening
before
everyone's hibernating.
Someone asked me, I was like, why Philly Theater Week happened in April? I was like, well, it used at some point it was happening in February, which to me, I don't see a lot of theater in January, February because I'm in my house. Not saying I'll go see a banger show, don't get me wrong, I'll still show up to support, but there are a lot of times that people are coming out more in the spring because they've spent the winter in reflecting, resting,
post hibernation,
and they're like, oh, it also gives time for the artists and the collectives and the theaters to take their time to mount something, you know what I'm saying, not to feel like you're in this rush to like bring something to life. Also funding wise, get my paper up so I can actually produce something, because once you get Fringe Festival, it's like, it's happening, but people are like, small collectives like, oh, we just put a lot of money into this, producing this work. Oh, but we got how many months until Philly Theater Week? All right, let's make it work. And let's, that roundabout. But I think I also love the notion of just Philly just being on the map, in our own way, to say, because I don't know a lot of different cities who have a specific week of theater. They have a lot of restaurant weeks, which are good things. But I don't think there's a lot of like theater weeks specifically. You know what I'm saying? I don't think you go to Chicago and there's like a whole theater week where it's like, oh, you're going to see a range from somebody doing their show in their, cafe around the corner to you go over down to the Wilma or to the Arden, So I think that's something that like is a pro for theater in Philly. Like you said, it's like we get it done. We say, oh, I can do this show in my room. What do you mean? We could do Fringe. I would never forget Fringe shows where I have literally been at somebody's house and I was like, yo, okay. Oh, I'm like, okay. I'm like, listen, and they serve food. I said, I'm here for it. Period. So shift, like, this is not just to talk about Philly Theater Week. It's to talk about, what part we play in coming into the Philadelphia theater scene, right? I've been in Philly for 10 years now. Lies, 11 years now, because it's 2025. And I've seen different phases of Philly theater. I'm still a youngin'. I'm not, too much of a veteran, but I've seen some different phases, right? Going to Temple and then transitioning into the professional scene. What's some things that you want to see more of as Philly theater grows, right? Whether it's accessible, more accessible theater, or whether it's, more support for individual artists.
Definitely more support. Always more support. I was just thinking, like, personally, I guess, as an audience member, what I would want to see more in Philly theater, more size specific. Like, I really believe in accessibility around the idea, like, how do I say that? Like, trying to outreach more with art to the community. I really believe in that. I think that can be done. I think we are like too compartmentalized these days around like social media art, like, or like commodification and like that as a value that gives to our art. And I would feel like more size specific, like public space performances, I would love to see. Because that's also in correlation for me with like the pay what you can, like mission, like vision and mission that I really support. And I also want to take like theater or like performance in general, like slightly outside of the stage space. Like I feel like that's a little like old world order for me, not gonna lie. But like I said, that's my personal, that's my personal, the thing that I would like to see. But yeah, other than that, hopefully there will be a world where the city can fund and support its arts universities a bit more.
Yeah, come on, speak on it. Speak on it.
I shouldn't.
No.
Yeah, like, I don't know. I guess.
That's the thing.
That's the thing.
We all know. Like, that's the thing. We say, well, I'm not saying, you know what I'm saying? We say we don't know because I think there's still a hope that we have that everyone consciously will get into community and be intentional about the theater community, right? Because I feel like the word community is commodified to be like, oh, as long as I'm proximity to you. We're both making theater. We're in community together. It's like, no, community is intentional.
Yep.
Community says, how do I collaborate? How do I support you? How do I show up for you on a consistent basis? And not in a way that feels for you like it is a transactional exchange.
Exactly.
More of it's like, I'm supporting the future of theater, or I'm supporting the legends of theater, or I'm supporting these kind of ways of really honing into the community aspect of fellowship, of art making, of collaboration. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, and I think like art is something that has that power of like trying, like reminding people about how to build a community, how to act on, and how to support one another. That like artful living and art itself has that power. And I think that is why, unfortunately, it's not funded that much anymore. But I think we as the communities, like, or like people in the communities, or like in locality, maybe proximity is sometimes like can work. I think it might be a time to like give back to like the educational side of art and like, yeah,
I support that 100%. I'm like, how do we not? You have to. Next generation is coming up, and there's also this notion of like, oh, they'll learn, they'll get it, and I'm like, why do they have to learn the hard way? It should be that those who come before them we're learning the lessons, we're taking the hits so that there's less of it for those coming behind us. You know what I'm saying? And so that I'm peeping you the game so that you don't have to do that whole grind and that whole thing. But it's like, no, you gotta struggle a little bit to get to this, to be able to create art. And it's like, why do we prescribe that?
And I think too, just like with education and arts education, there's so much about just making space for people to try things and fail and try and try and try and eventually figure some stuff out. And so, yeah, I think like higher education institutions are certainly problematic, but they do provide that space for, young artists, and I wonder if those institutions are all dying, how are we making that space for young artists who are figuring out their voice and what they're doing?
Yeah, and how do we as an industry make it more easy for them to transition and come into that space? You know, Theater Philadelphia, we have the Ubuntu Young Artist Fellowship, and the purpose for me was because I flourished because I had those apprenticeships, those kind of like mentorships into the industry. So it was like, oh, there was someone there to be like, okay, this is how you do this, but how do you want to do it? How do you want to kind of cultivate that path? But I'm not going to say it was easy. I think that there are many, you know, factors that come into how we welcome people into the theater community in Philly. You know, do we give them hope and inspire to be like, you can be a creative artist, you can be a collective and still get the work that you need, still be able to afford to feed yourself and those things. But I'm sitting there looking at these kids and they're like, oh, I just know I'm going to have to struggle when I get out here. And I'm like, I don't want that for y'all. I want y'all to know that there are people in this community already. There are spaces like Cannonball, like Philly Theater Week, that are like, no, you want to put on a show, get your friends together in somebody's basement legally. And, you know, come on. And you know what I'm saying? Like,
we're in full support of basement performances.
Be a part.
Absolutely.
You know, listen, I love a good basement performance. If there's food there, and if you got good lighting, I'm here for it. I really like good basement lighting. You know what I'm saying? Like people be having those like, but it's side note because
all about the lighting.
It's always like my people ask me what my tech like. I feel like everyone has like a tech like fetish or something. You know what I'm saying? Like when you go see a show, it's like if that is off, you turn it off for the whole show.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
For me, it's lighting. If the lighting is not good, I don't want no parts of it. I can't. I have a friend who like sound. She'd be like, who designed this sound? Because it's awful. And I'd be like, yo, it's okay. It's like, no, it's not. You know,
everyone has
their little, you'd be like, you know what I'm saying? And for me, I really don't care about, do I care about set design? Like I care about set design in the way of like, okay, cool sets, wonderful. Yeah. But if you could do some lighter stuff, I'm talking about, I like a good go-go. I love a good little shadow. I love it when people know how to light people of color. That's a real term. I'd be like, shout out to Sean Kaiser, who works at Temple, who like all the time at Temple, like Sean had us in purples. He had me a little purple. I said, that's what I'm talking about. I said, you know how to light. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I don't know how we got on that topic, but I'm just saying. I think
love a good lighting.
You know, but I think there's like we're saying there are multiple factors to how you enter into the Philly theater scene, and a lot of times I think the stories need to be documented of how that happens. Whether you're a transplant, they would call you if people just move to Philly and they're like, I'm here. That's still a valid way to come into the scene. And how do we make it not easier? Because it's not always going to be easy, you know, to make these productions or these pieces. But how are we making it welcoming, right? Welcoming in a way that says, hey, what support? These are support systems that we have available to you. And Theater Philadelphia loves to do that through our job board. Shout out to the job board.
Yeah.
It's how I got my job now.
Yeah. I've gotten some jobs off the job board. Love the job board.
You know, resources, things like that. But I think what I really love is the notion of how do we intersect these performance spaces. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's why I love the fact that Miniball is a part of Philly Theater Week, because it's like, oh, well, listen, if you get bored of our 40, the other 45 we got, they got about 10 in their production is listed with it. Like, just, you know, go look that up. What are some things that
camera move,
right?
Look up Miniball.
Look it up. Look it up. Go to phillytheaterweek.com.
What?
And listen, just look it up. So my next question centers around the notion of the future of Philly theater in like not utopia, because that's wild, but in a realistic for you, because the truth comes in multiple forms. what does the future of Philly theater look like?
Like a hopeful future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think resources for independent artists. I see the sort of regional theater subscriber base is crumbling around the country. That model is, I think, going away, and I'm really interested and excited to see how that model shifts and how those resources shift to support independent artists who are making work on the edges right now and don't have that huge subscriber base and don't have those huge funders, but are, I think, really making work that's at the heart of what's happening, and with a variety of perspectives and intentions. And so, yeah, I hope that that resources are spread amongst those independent theater artists, and that there are many opportunities and venues, cheap, affordable venues for artists to be making work that is true to them.
I like that hopeful future too.
Yeah. I think it's possible.
I think it's possible,
I don't
too.
think it's
Skye, gonna hold you. I really think it's I really think it's possible. You know, some conversations, ongoing conversations, right?
Yeah.
I always say I think the biggest thing that stops us from the change or from adapting is we're afraid to have honest conversations around that shift. And around what it means to shift resources, right? And to use them in a more intersectional way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it feels scary to be like, this model is breaking.
Yeah.
Like, it's scary to say that, but I think it's also really exciting to say, what's the new model and how does it support all of these voices that haven't been heard in the old model?
That part. Come on.
Come on.
Any thoughts, Sue? She said, I told you what it is.
I'm not staying, y'all. I'm leaving this country. I have no idea but about how it's gonna happen. Tragically out.
But I feel that, Sue. I think that even in these times, as we want to be a part of that change, those conversations, it is okay for artists and for as humans for us to say, I'm gonna take care of myself in this, and I'm gonna I will support in my way and how I can support. Because there is that, and I personally have dealt with it with leaving certain like positions in the community or things like that. You're like, but well, am I like leaving because I don't want to do the work? No, I'm leaving because I want to make sure that I can do the work, but also that I'm doing it in a way that not only supports the artist, but supports me as an artist and what that looks like. There's the Ubuntu Fellows kind of program is named after Ubuntu, which is the word, the meaning of the word is I am because we are, right? And we also often think that we have to, that's all about the we, right? And when people hear individual artists like supporting, they're like, well, that's not supporting community. Yes, it is. Taking care of yourself as an individual artist and also being supported in large makes the community a more richer community.
Yeah.
Because the legs of the table that we're trying to build are not shaking, right? And, that notion of like when we come together at this table, like at this table right now, we each bring something, a perspective to the table that is valuable. But it doesn't mean that we are stuck at the table, right? And I think that's what my future hope is. Like, we realize that we do not have to sit at this table that was built eons ago.
Yep, exactly.
We don't have to sit there, and we don't have to like figure out what the meal is. Do you know what I'm saying? If you ain't serving what I'm gonna eat, I have a right to get up.
Right.
And so I think that's a hard talk of the future. It's because everyone's like, no, we have to stick it out and build and reshape. And I'm like, reshape, or do you mean patch up?
Mm.
I don't want no patches on my table. I want my table, some table. If we're rebuilding, cut the whole thing down. Let's do it.
Right. Yeah. This table wasn't built for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Talking about I know people talk about bringing a folding chair to the table. And I'm like, but I don't like sitting in folding chairs all the time. You know what I'm saying? I want to know this my seat for me, you know? And I think a lot of individual artists in Philly that are on like the grid are like, oh, but I want to be sat at the table comfortably.
Yeah.
Right? And comfort doesn't mean like you're not going through struggle or you're not like dealing with certain trials, but it means that you are being actively brought into the conversation. But that scares a lot of non-intersectional people who do not have multiple kind of intersections that they're balancing. Or, you know, I know a lot of people who have like little to no intersections. They're like, yeah, we should really probably rebuild this. And there's some who are like, nah, it's working for me.
Right.
Let's hold on to it.
Right. It's worked for all these years.
Yeah. Has it?
For me.
Like, has it?
For certain people.
Yeah. And we talk about the type of theater, like, I love a good Shakespeare. I do. But I'm like, there's so much more that we could be producing. There's so much. We talk about diversity in our shows, in our offerings, right? This is why you see, like, when I see Cannonball, when I see Philly Theater Week, it's like all these different, like, spectrums and perspectives, right? That otherwise would be like, it's not, you're not worth being produced. But like, no, this story is worth it. What do you mean? This is a story that you wouldn't dare put on your stage because you're afraid of the voices that will come, or our subscribers won't value this story. And it's like, maybe you should get some new subscribers who, you know, or maybe your subscribers are not necessarily as diverse as you believe they to be.
I think sometimes also people feel like, oh, this story is not worthy of, you know, like I really think there's like a very economical like link of these like selection of things. I'm not no tea, no shade, but no, because like as an individual artist who's trying to apply to grants and stuff and whatever, and I'm like, help this Turkish artist like with funding, whatever, like, and how I look at how they select their artists to offer those like big grants and funding opportunities. I'm like, it really makes me question the worth of my story that I'm like trying to put out in the world, and I'm like I'm not even interested in telling a story or like offering a meaning or whatever, but I'm like, this can be in that ether with the other, you know. That's why I think I loved when you said documentation. Like we're really providing that space of like documentation and that space for people to like try it out. Like it's not even about the value of your work, it's also the value of your progress that you can like share, because it's not a commodity.
It's not.
And I think there's something there that I was just thinking about too, with like that I really value about Cannonball is the ability or the opportunity to do things imperfectly. Because with these like big theaters who are they choosing for their seasons? Who do their subscribers want to see? Maybe it's something new, maybe it's something with a diverse perspective, but it's like the one exceptional version that is being perfectly done. And I think the opportunity to do something poorly is just as important as the opportunity to like be that one exceptional case that gets put on a big stage, because trying things out is how you get to that place of exception.
And I think what we really need to talk about is how the funding of those needs to be more spread out, right? The funding for the one exception and the one kind of like representation, and also the funding for the multitude of perspectives that are flying to either fall or flying to succeed, right? Giving that workshop space. But sometimes we have that uneven kill. And when we talk about documentation, I think I'm so grateful that I had the mindset early in my career of theater to be like, I'm going to put out this one show if I want to. You know what I'm saying? It's going to get done, right? I'm going to write the book because I want to write it. And I don't care how many people buy it or whatever. I'm doing it because the thought of erasure is something that we don't talk about in artists and people not getting the opportunity to kind of like produce their work. Because if I didn't do those things, right, I would, what is to show, right? But also, it's about the next generation, years from now, who are looking for just that permission, right? And they don't need permission, but we all know that there are some artists who dared to document themselves, right? And dared to go out and produce their work and do those things. That if they hadn't done that, we hadn't seen that, we would have been like, well, I don't know, right? And even though, you know, we're not imitating those people, we are inspired, the inspiration to be like, I can talk, I can do this from my perspective. If that person can do that, I can do that. And I think we downplay documentation, but we do it in a hierarchy. This is worthy of documentation.
Exactly.
Right. This is worthy of, you know, and it's a part of the reason why I did the podcast last year and this year, because I was like, we need to have conversations documented for where we are in this moment, right? As a scene, but also who is worthy to come. Like, we have a future podcast coming up, episode where we're going to go to Columbus Square Club and their kids are doing like a Shakespearean kind of twist. But we're going there to document youth theater in that way, right? Because sometimes youth theater is like, it's cute, it's funny, but to those kids, it's a serious deal.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? And a documentation moment. That's how I feel about it. It's like, who's to say who's worthy, right?
Yeah.
And but we live in a world that's like, but this voice is clear enough for us. But how do we know that's clear? Because somebody else, that one show that is a part of that season, I still don't see myself in it.
Right.
Right? And I have yet to see myself on stage in the way that I want to see myself with these resources that y'all have. Right? And how in this hierarchy of like how we work up, what if there's no hierarchy at all? What if there's that range? It's just a flat, like, this is your part, and someday you can walk over here to this part and get more resources. But in general, there's an equitable sharing of those resources. But we don't have the conversation about equity anyway, because equity is like, to talk about equity would mean a very honest conversation about takeaways from others and giving more to others. What I love about, you know, Philly Theater Week, Cannonball, Fringe Festival is that it's going into sectors of the community who sometimes cannot come down to Center City to see a show, right? And it's great. I'm in North Philly. I can go see this North Philly show. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I'm on West Philly. I can go see this West Philly show. You know what I'm saying? But also there are different price points, different things that help me know that I can afford this ticket.
Yeah.
Especially in inflation, you know, and those things. And I also see the side of some big theaters who are like economically trying to keep up, right? And we're like, okay, cool. Let's have these conversations to see where we can give, take, co-partnership, do these things. But we're never going to solve it. Like, and I say we're never going to solve it because the world's ever changing. It's ridiculous, you know what I'm saying? But I would rather it not be solved, but we are continuously finding solutions for some of the contradictions than for us to be like, I give up. I don't know. I don't know what we're going to do.
This is the way it is.
It's the way it is, you know? It's like, no, for me, that's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But I really do honor this conversation about individual artists, how it's a part of the collective, how it's a part of how we move forward as a Philly theater community, because we're basically trying to build this hyphen table or some sort. Like there's an extra long table, but also like sometimes we're not meant to sit at each other's table, and that's cool.
Or like it's like one big long like Ramadan table where if you don't like the conversation, you get up and go to the other side of the table, and there's always other people chatting there.
Reunion, you know what I'm saying? At my family reunion, I really do not. There are certain tables I'm not sitting at.
Right.
If I see a certain auntie, I'm like, I'm gonna sit over there. You know what I'm saying? Or I'm gonna go over there. Yeah. But that does not mean we aren't in the same backyard.
Yeah,
exactly.
Everyone has a chair.
Exactly. Everyone has food.
Tables.
Everyone's food, you know what I'm saying? And I think, but that's what equity also comes in. It's like knowing that equity does not mean that we all get in the same amount. Mm-hmm. Equity means we're all getting what we need to sustain ourselves and to do the work that we are looking to do, right? Yeah. And that's the goal of Miniball, Cannonball, and Philly Theater Week, and the Fringe Festival too. Like, is to say, okay, what equity can we offer to all these spaces coming in, these different shows, these different things? Listen, the podcast, well, I was like, listen, whoever wants a podcast, there's only 5 spots. I said, that's my equitable. That's equity based on Sabria's labor.
We want it.
Let's do it. But I think sometimes we do have a notion that we're not in the same backyard. But the thing about it, we are all in the same world, in the same kind of functionality. And we all get the core of why we make art. So that's my final question. Is the notion of why do you continue to make art in this Philly theater scene? Have you continued?
Yeah, but I think that's the only way to make sense of the world. I don't know. It's not like I choose, because I mean, honestly, I would choose something else that would make me the money. To go to a dentist.
That part.
But it's unfortunately something that I'm not choosing. It's, I need it for my little Delulu. Like, I need to be able to, like, be in vibe with life.
Yes.
Yeah. I agree. I think if I was able to do something else, I would like to. But it feels like, like have to and get to and love to. And I think, for me, it's also this piece about community too. I've built so much of my life in theater and performance, and so many close bonds and families and deep friendships have come from working in theater and performance. And I really, really value that, and it really keeps me coming back.
I agree with, I don't choose, it feels like I have to do this, right? But I think I really appreciate the different ways in which you discover yourself and your role and how you show up to community through being a part of art, right? Are you a good programmer? Are you a good tech designer? Are you that person who does art education, right? And sells at it? Are you multitudes of things? But what I love is to bear witness, to say that I was there to witness the art that was being made, right? And to also ask the questions behind the scenes of how the art was being made and who was the who, behind this piece. Because I think that's something that we can sometimes miss as we look back on art. Is like, I want to hear the stories about how this came to be, right? And those voices behind these great theatrical moments, these great art moments, right? What was that? What was it? It's a privilege, to do. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that documenting piece. It's so important.
It's almost like I'm a community ethnographer in this mug. Exactly. It is on my website, y'all. But that being said, this has been a wonderful episode of the Philly Theater Week podcast for 2025. I am so thankful, Sue and Skye, for you coming and sharing your perspectives, also your work, right, and your hopes for the Philly theater scene, right? Which is a vulnerable thing to do, whether y'all know it or not. Like, it's a thing to get up and say, this is the work I do, and this is how I do it, and what I hope for it to do for the world and community. Now, Philly Theater Week, reminder, is from April 3rd to 13th. And is a wonderful opportunity to get pay what you can tickets to over 40 different productions and spaces and festivals to celebrate, the Philadelphia theater art scene, right? Also stay in tune with the Theater Philadelphia happenings. If you need a job, if you need to know what's happening past Theater Week, log on to theaterphiladelphia.org. And also check out Cannonball when it comes back in the summer, right? And Mini Cannonball, a part of Philly Theater Week.
And can I do just a tiny plug?
Come on, get it.
Just our applications are open now.
Period.
For the festival in September. They close on April 11th, and the application is on our website. Get my
application to go.
Yeah, we want your weirdest ideas. Tell us your weirdest ideas.
Do it. Okay.
And also meet at the kickoff.
Yes.
Let's come to our table.
Oh yeah, we'll be at the Theater Week kickoff.
Yes, the kickoff is going to be March 31st at the Temple Performing Arts Center in North Philly from 6 to 8:30 p.m. We have a keynote address from Pat Adams from the Wilma Theater, who is, if you know, a community mother in the theater area, and also, socializing with us. There's a DJ jams. We're going to do some dancing. There'll be food and a lot of different, just like celebrating Philly theater in general. So we hope you can join us. This has been wonderful.
This
and we're
is
signing
great.
out.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you.